Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo. And today, I wanted to go on a little bit of a rant, I guess you could say, or more of a common relaxed discussion, at least I'll attempt to make it that way, on the topic of Arma 3. I guess not just Arma 3, but Arma in general, the existence of that title as developed by Bohemia. So in the background, I have some gameplay, some footage from a past D&D session using some Zeus over on the Bystricka map. I'll have all that stuff linked in the description below if you guys are interested in playing with us and all of that good stuff, how you can do all that. But let's go ahead and get to the core topic. That is the discussion of Arma 3. Arma 3 is a game, okay? It's considered a military simulator. Now, we're not saying it's some full-on hardcore simulator. You know, it's not trying to simulate everything to the maximum, but it is technically a military sim. That is the key focus of the game. You know, it's meant to create a realistic first-person military experience. You know, you have all the different unit types, and you have the hardcore gameplay, and there's a lot of things that Arma 3 has done very well in pushing towards that goal of being that military sim, you know, and of course being, frankly, a military sim sandbox, one of the biggest ones out there. In fact, I would say that the Arma franchise is probably the only franchise, the only game of that nature, so they really have no competition, which of course leads to some other problems that the game has that we will discuss a little bit further down this conversation. So first to start, what is inside of Arma? Now, of course, you have the single-player campaign that you can actually play through, which has been released in parts since the game actually went live. You know, that's all great and dandy. There's some cool elements there. It's not really what I think people come to Arma for the single-player. The AI is something that kind of always has ruined that experience for a lot of people. It's the reason that in the past, Arma 2 has had a lot of custom AI made by modders, and the same thing goes with Arma 3 already. In fact, us currently as an organization, inside of Zeus, we are constantly testing new AI because, frankly, there's really no happy medium with the AI as it stands in Arma 3 in a default fashion. You either turn them down, they're completely useless, they're too easy. You turn them up and they're headshotting you at 1,000 meters with iron sight rifles, red dot rifles. There's just an extreme lack of realism. The AI is one of the major weak points of Arma 3. It's something that I will infinitely complain about, and frankly, I think it's pretty much unacceptable, especially considering a large portion of the Arma community does spend a lot of time playing co-op versus AI missions. It's a big part of the game. Getting friends together, running a squad, playing against AI. Yes, you know, the idea of the multiplayer component, playing player versus player, PvP, is great, but really, a lot of us spend a lot of our time, again, facing off against the AI. So the AI is one complaint that I've always had with Arma, and you'll notice that the answer to all of these issues in Arma 3 are always, the modders will fix it. Now, I think it's great when a game allows modding. If we look back to something like Battlefield 2 and the Project Reality mod, probably one of the best mods you can play for any game in existence, in my opinion. It's, at least when you talk about a full modification, you know, taking the core game and then changing it into something different. Project Reality is utterly fantastic. In fact, I just recently downloaded it. I plan on playing some of that, and maybe I'll have some footage for you guys, because to me it is just still one of the best experiences of that type that you can get anywhere, and it's ancient, but it's still wonderful. So mods are great, they really are, and I'm really happy that Bohemia allows modding of their game. And for their sake, you know, if they didn't allow modding of Arma, the game would not be in the place it is in the community. In fact, it probably would have never have gotten to the place it is right now without allowing players to modify the game. Not only did they create a lot of interesting and really cool content and ideas, they fixed a lot of the problems that Bohemia, for some reason, refuses to fix or is just too damn lazy to do so. So, now, I started playing Arma way back with Arma 1, actually. The original Arma was the first time I got into it. I had played some Operation Flashpoint before then, but I was really young at the time. I didn't have too much time put into it, too much experience. But I really enjoyed it. You know, as clunky as it felt compared to shooters that I had been playing at the time, like Counter-Strike, as well as even the original Halo, Halo 2, it was a different experience, and I really enjoyed it. I always have had some sort of interest in the hardcore side of, you know, first-person shooters, the military side of things. Lots of, you know, the idea of procedures and, you know, just everything feeling so harsh and so unforgiving compared to the games that I had been playing in the past. And, you know, that kind of what took me in first for it. And then I sort of went on a hiatus, and I didn't touch games like that for quite some time. In fact, I didn't PC game at all for quite some time. It was just too expensive at, you know, a young age, 14, 15, for me to do those. Just not something that was in my budget. Around the time, though, I went to go to college, I finally built a PC using some scholarship money, and that was when I got back into gaming, and that was about the time I started playing Arma 2 once again. And I spent some time with Arma 2, and it never really ran good on my PC, and down the road, eventually I did end up playing just a lot of Wasteland casually with my brother. I never really was able to take it to a serious level. The same thing happened with Arma 3 upon its release. It didn't run on my computer. I didn't have, what it took. I mean, let's be honest, Arma 2 and Arma 3, extremely poorly optimized titles. They require a lot of CPU power because they don't utilize your GPU enough. They don't even utilize enough of your CPU. Finally, a couple months ago, I made that jump to the i7, and I was finally able to really dig into Arma 3. And since then, I've spent over 300 hours playing the title. So everything you hear and see me here is just completely my opinion based on what I've experienced. I'm not in any way saying that Arma 3 is a bad game. I enjoy it very much. I think it's very unique, but I think it has a lot of issues. And I think a lot of those issues are due to the fact that they can afford to be lazy or lacking in solving these issues, or elements that should be in the game that just aren't there, that don't make sense, that they don't exist, because they have things like modders, and also because they have no competition. So I want to start off with one of my first major gripes. This is going to sound ridiculous, but it just adds to the whole idea of content that isn't in the game that should be there. That being the inclusion of bipods. Working bipods in the default Arma 3 experience do not exist. You'll see bipods on certain weapons. Things like the light machine gun version of the MX, the Negev has a bipod, the MK200 has a grip pod on it. None of these things are deployable using the bare bones version of Arma 3. The only way to get them to work is to use something like TMR or VTS, the weapon resting system, which is again a mod created by a player, not by a member of Bohemia. It just seems completely unnecessary to call your game a military simulation and then lack so many pieces of content to me that just really should be in the game, and a deployable bipods is just a huge one. Now again, it may sound like I'm nitpicking, but when you really think about it, it's, this all is just part of some of the problems that I have with Arma 3, some of the lacks of actual creative design within Arma 3, going beyond just making it a military sim, making it a game that is enjoyable to play at a further extent, and that's where the modders have stepped in once again. One of the other big issues that I've had just endlessly over the last couple months, and I know everybody's really had this issue, it's something that DayZ fixed, is the ability to change your weapon, to swap weapons while on the move. Now there's two problems with this. Number one, the fact that you can do it. Number two, the way that actually carrying a second weapon on your character works. It is completely unrealistic, it's inauthentic, and I think again it was a lazy answer to simply have your character deploy their rifle, whatever it may be, onto their back as if it's magnetic. There's a thing called slings. 2-point, 3-point, 1-point sling systems that allow a soldier to carry their main primary weapon in front of them, drop down in front of their chest rig while on the move, deploying their secondary weapon, or doing any sort of an action where they wouldn't want to actually carry their primary weapon. These things exist, and they're used on a daily basis in the military, in law enforcement, as well as on a casual setting in things like airsoft, where people are doing milsim reenactments, things of that nature. They exist everywhere, yet they don't exist inside of Arma 3, and for me, it's always been a big hit for the game. Again, a very obvious lack of sort of creative or, whatever, design when it comes to that element. It just doesn't make sense to me that those things aren't there. Now again, these are all very small things. Do they really affect the actual experience that you get when you play Arma? Yes and no, because there are times when having to switch your weapon out like that is just a chore. It affects the game. It possibly even gets you killed because you decided, oh, I accidentally pressed the button, now I gotta switch my weapon, and now I've died. When you're somebody who plays the game for, 70 hours a week, you start to take notice of these things, and they do actually affect your gameplay experience. They become detrimental in some ways to it. One of the other things that carries over, of course, this is something that many people have, sort of went even further to explain. In fact, I'll have Dyslexi's thoughts on the menu selection system, the way that you select items, you interact with objects inside of Arma 3, as well as in Arma 2 in the past, is that awful scroll wheel selection menu. It's hideous, it's horrid, it doesn't work on any level, it's broken beyond belief, and it should have been taken out of the game before Arma 3 even went into alpha. This should have been something they obviously recognized was an issue. People hated it in Arma 2, and it's just something that has stuck with the game for no good reason. But I'll have Dyslexia expands on this very well. I'll have his video in the comment section below. I strongly recommend if you guys are new to Arma, you're unaware of it, or if you've used the system and you don't understand just how much of an issue it is and how broken it is, to go check out his video. But essentially that system forces you to do things like open doors, enter vehicles, pick up weapons, open boxes, search targets, whatever it may be, while using a scroll wheel system, which gives you a number of options. Not only is that scroll system in place, but it's extremely inaccurate. It takes forever to actually have your character recognize that they're in the right area. You'll stand in front of a door for 20 minutes, jumbling around, trying to find out where the scroll wheel is. Again, when it comes to opening doors, it leads me to another issue. There are many tactical experiences in the past that have allowed you to use the scroll wheel to select a door and then use it to swing the door open and shut as you would in a real-life situation. That does not exist in Arma. Once again, kind of a missed opportunity there, if you ask me. It's just a lot of the portions of Arma 3 are not fleshed out. CQB is one of the biggest ones. The fact that you can open doors, great. There's not really much in terms of breaching technology, the ability to breach doors in Arma. Just a lot of missed avenues, I feel, for the game. And, you know, again, we're talking about it as a game. Yes, I know it's a military simulator. A lot of people want to look at it more like it's just this tool now that you're inside of, and it doesn't really have any right expanding upon things to make an actual gameplay experience, and I disagree with that 100%. I mean, it's most definitely a game first and foremost. It's there for people to have fun with. And when you take out a lot of these elements, and you realize a lot of these things weren't ever fleshed out as much as they should be or could have been, it becomes very disappointing to know that, okay, well, the game's out, this is pretty much it, you know. We might see some expansions, some additions, but it's pretty much up to the modders at this point to see what they can do. Bohemia is holding a contest, Make Arma Not War, a huge modding contest with like I forget how much, a really six-figure number, you know, for the winning team, and I think several prizes below that. They haven't launched it just yet, but it's something that I'm really looking forward to because the modding community really just hasn't been there for Arma 3 yet. A lot of people left it behind when it went to Steam. Again, not something I agree with. I don't know why you would dump a game behind for picking a platform that allows them to develop easier, to push out updates at an easier manner. I think it was a very smart choice on Bohemia's, and I don't think anyone should knock them down or refuse to put out a mod. Looking at you, Ace, simply because, you know, it's on Steam. That's childish, and that's very silly to me to not support a community that was willing to support you for the entire length of, you know, of Arma 2's existence. So, you know, I love Arma. Don't get me wrong, I really do. I'm really happy. I'm grateful that I was able to afford, you know, a PC that can continue to run the game. I know a lot of people can't even play the game, and I think that's a missed opportunity because there's a lot of good inside of Arma 3. I'm not in any way bashing it or say that you couldn't play it. I just feel that Arma 3 is a prime example of slightly lazy game development, you know, whether it be money or whatever we want to say was behind it all. At the end of the day, there's a lot of laziness there. You know, you can't say that, oh, they had to rush the game out. You know, Arma 3 didn't release in a traditional platform. They took use of early access. They released an alpha to beta to the open game, and now we're past the game's launch and we're still seeing way too many bugs. I'm seeing more bugs in the stable build than I'm seeing in development build. There's just a lot of small things happening that have been really irritating me in terms of the development of Arma 3 after its initial launch, and I feel it's just a lot of laziness. I really think Bohemia needs to be taking a lot of the profits that they've made. I mean, Arma is doing better. Bohemia is doing better as a company than they ever have done. You know, there's more people playing Arma. There's more people playing things like the DayZ mod. DayZ, again, which is also, you know, part of Bohemia. They own part of DayZ. It's their game, technically. They're just not taking enough opportunities with the money and the income and the popularity that the game has gained and making these forward jumps. Now, they've already talked about things like the fact that they ported the Arma engine to consoles, which is cool. I think that there could be a lot of growth there to bring this sort of game to a console. And, you know, they're talking about their next game and things of that nature, which kind of upsets me. I think that Arma is a platform that if they had launched it better with better optimizations, you know, more changes to the engine to get rid of the dependency on so much CPU power, and just, they could have made a game that could have lasted a really extensive amount of time without having to already focus on another release. It's upsetting. I think, again, huge missed opportunity there, but, you know, I'm going to be here for the ride. I hope Bohemia does well into the future, whatever they work on next, whether we see another Arma game. I would really like to see them step up the game, take the profits and the success that they've had in the past couple years, and really use it to their advantage to create something more than just what we've come to expect from Arma. You know, a game that we kind of expect to have all of the holes filled in by modders and things of that nature, and instead make the game that I know all of them want. There's a lot of passionate people working at Bohemia. I follow a lot of them on Twitter. They're, you know, they're really into what they do. And I think I want to see more of their passion and their work put into Arma, whether it be Arma 3 into the future or the next title that they plan on working on. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. You know, feel free to leave all your opinions and thoughts on Arma, as you may have been playing it over the past 10 to 15 years, however long you've been part of the Arma community. Let me know in the comment section below. Again, if you're interested in playing Arma with us on Fridays, or whatever that may be, I'll have the forum posts for our Tactical Advanced forums in the link below, in the description below as well. Go check those out, and I'll see you guys in the next one.